and at 2 different restaurants, she was the waitress. And it was just one of those weird things where it was like, wait a minute, you're the waitress from the other place. Yeah, I used to work. Weird. Yeah. And then she was briefly engaged to a comedian that I knew. Yeah. And then she opened the hat thing. Wow. Like it was like she was like a person who I sort of had around me peripherally for years.
Like in Maybury, where one guy was a judge, the other guy was the police chief.
That's right. But in Toronto, it's weirder.
It is weirder. It is weirder in Toronto, for sure. Maybe she was just in your simulation. You just enjoyed having her around, so she just kept reappearing.
That's exactly. I control the world that way.
Your world.
Yeah.
Do you ever believe in the simulation?
Not at all.
Not at all?
I make those jokes all the time.
Oh, do you? Because your life is so wonderful. It's a wonder how you made it so perfect.
Believe me, nobody is more mystified than I am. I mean, I am the most undeserving, lucky person there is.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the podcast studio today, the one and only Simon Rakoff.
Yes.
That's a bit of a Russian
It's totally Russian.
Oh, it is? Okay, good. I thought I was being a little bit crazy.
Sometimes it's Rakovitsa, depending. But
your last name?
Not my last name, but people from Rakoff.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm named for the town somewhere in Latvia or Lithuania or wherever it is.
So you are. Okay, you're a Russian. When did the Rakoffs come to America? When did you come to North America?
Well, my guess is that, like all Jews in Russia, Stalin had a thirds policy with the Jews. It was 1/3 eliminate, 1/3 assimilate, 1/3 emigrate. And I think we were probably the lucky third that were kicked out, and probably didn't see it that way at the moment. Yep. Get out of here. But over time, I think it became the right thing.
Yeah. Well, look at you now.
Well, in fact, I wasn't born here. I was born in South Africa. That's where my family was from.
My father's from South Africa.
Oh, well, small world.
That is crazy. From Durban. Are you from Durban?
No. My dad is Cape Town. My mom is a small town called Worcester.
Wow.
And in fact, my dad grew up in Namaqualand, one of the free states,
Wow.
In a tiny seaside town called Port Nolloth.
Wow. And I say South Africa. My dad was actually born in Rhodesia, but they moved to
Zimbabwe.
Yes,
I'm kidding.
They moved to Zimbabwe, which
All
is now
Rhodesia
Zimbabwe. Yeah, Bulawayo.
Zimbabwe.
All of them. Yeah, without even moving.
My late uncle was a Rhodesian.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well,
there's not too many Rhodesians around left anymore, right? When did that become Zimbabwe? That must have been in the
I think it was the 60s or 70s. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's Google.
There is Google.
If you're watching this on a computer, you can actually open another tab and find out right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, which is, or you could go to my podcast I did with my father, and he talks about it extensively.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, 6 hours. 6 hours of my father talking about
the
Rhodesia.
History of,
Yeah, it's amazing. So you're in town for the big night, Mike McDonald Memorial fundraiser.
That's right.
It's going to be a
tribute and comedy show fundraiser. It's easy when the poster is right over your shoulder and I can just read it. Yes,
it's a beautiful poster. I'm so honored to be on it.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun.
It's going to be great. So you are one of the original. What was that sound?
That's what I'm asking.
It's like a dragon coming.
Yeah, it's like a ghostly.
It's unbelievable. But we have the window open here. I have no idea what's happening out there.
Well, there might be traffic.
There could be a vehicle making a sound.
Well, exactly. But it was a very ghostly, eerie sound. It was
unlike any sound I've heard a human device make.
That's right.
So back to Yuck Yucks. Where are you from? Ottawa?
Toronto.
Toronto?
No, I'm just visiting. I'm staying in a nice Airbnb.
Yeah. What street?
Right near the Mayfair Theatre.
Oh, wow. That's where the show is today.
Exactly.
That's
I think
perfect.
It was probably picked
Walking
for that
distance.
reason, yes.
Yes. And so
I'll be dragging a suitcase of T-shirts I'm going to sell.
Oh, you're gonna sell? Is that the one you have on?
No, I have a
T-shirt.
T-shirt.
That looks like Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to sell Spider-Man shirts. Marvel has enough money, I think. They're doing okay.
Just random T-shirts.
Yeah, that's right. Just T-shirts I found in my closet.
That's my old shit.
I have a T-shirt with my philosophy, and I think it applies to Mike too. Actually, it says comedy is not a job; it's a personality disorder.
Yes.
So I'm going to sell them tonight and give the proceeds to the the organ donation cause. So
what's Mike say? 2 types of comedians: diagnosed and undiagnosed.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the same. That's great. Yeah, it's a special evening for sure. And so, born and raised in Toronto.
No.
Oh,
Born in South Africa.
oh, South Africa. Wow.
Moved to Canada, to Montreal, actually, when I was about 9 months old,
Okay.
I have been told.
Yeah.
And we came to Toronto when I was about 7 years old. So.
Okay. 7 years old. And
I'm almost 60, so a long time ago.
That is a long time ago. And you have a brother? Siblings?
No, I had a brother.
Oh, you had a brother. So sorry to hear that.
My brother died.
Oh.
He was a famous writer, David Rakoff.
Okay.
And my wonderful sister, who's also actually a writer, Ruth. Mm-hmm. And mom of 3 boys, one of whom lives here. So I took him and his girlfriend for sushi yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
for lunch.
How old is that?
Nice.
How old are they?
I don't
Like, are they
know,
adults?
25,
Okay,
26.
adults,
Yeah, no, they're grown men. And they're big. They're tall like you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which is so funny in our family because I'm the tall one, like at 5'7".
5'7", yeah.
My dad is, 5'3" maybe. My mother's not 5 feet.
Mm-hmm.
We're little people. And
Yeah.
And then my sister had these giant boys.
That is weird. That is. My wife's 5'3". I think that's
there you
why
go.
she married me, for sure, to get a bit of height into the family.
Well, my sister's joke is, she said, I knew the only way I'd have long, slim legs was to breed them.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So, so Toronto, and how did your brother pass away?
Cancer.
Oh, okay. And that's, when was that? How long ago?
About 5 years, I think.
Okay. That's, I'm sorry to hear that. That's
yes, I was too.
Yeah. Well, my whole story is, which I don't think you probably know because we just met, is about my brother and me. And so we had a very strong relationship as children. In 1985, we were just talking about the NFL in 1985. My brother and I sat down to watch the Super Bowl. Dan Marino played that year. It was the year before the Chicago Bears. And during that game, we'd watch Dan Marino and we thought, this young guy can make it to the NFL, make it to the Super Bowl. And he made it seem so easy, right? And my brother and I decided that I would play in the NFL someday. And I'm from Ottawa. Right, so no one ever goes from Ottawa to the NFL, and it was just one of these crazy, impossible dreams. But we decided we'd do it, and we went out and we practiced and we played catch, and we loved doing it. And we hung out, and then before the next football season started, during the next football season, actually the last game of the second season I played, 9 months later, on October 30th, 1985, my brother passed away. He had a hole in his heart, and it was a condition he had since he was a little kid. And as his younger brother, I never realized that was a possibility, and it hit me pretty hard. And the way I handled it on the day that it happened was I made a promise to my brother that this dream that we've been working on, that I would never give up on it, and I would just learn from my mistakes and keep moving forward. And the next 10 years, filled with failure, filled with not getting anywhere close, but I never gave up, and I was driven based on that promise I made to my brother. And on October 30th, 1995, so 10 years to the day of my brother passing away, I signed a contract with the Miami Dolphins, and Dan Marino is the guy who welcomed me to the team. So it's a crazy story about just never giving up on your dreams, and taking a terrible situation and making it the reason why that things happened, the motivator. So,
sure.
Yeah. So I mean, that's when you say your brother passes away, it also has a tough spot in my life for sure that I learned to overcome. And I couldn't speak about it for years. Like if it happened, if this was 1990 and it had been 5 years, I wouldn't even have been able to say a word about it. Like that's how hard it was for me. And it was only once I started telling people that story that I was able to communicate it again. So
he was a very young man.
Yeah, well, he's 19.
Yeah,
sure, which is barely a man.
That's what I mean. Yeah. My brother was, he wasn't yet 50, so it's too young to die. But yeah. He was a grown-up.
That's right.
And I was older.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Different situation, for sure, but it's a special relationship. Absolutely. And he was a writer, you said?
A very well-known writer.
Yeah. I recognized the name for sure when I was looking at it.
Yeah, he won the Thurber Prize, which is the big American prize for written humor.
Okay.
I mean, he was very prominent.
Yeah, yeah. So he was a younger, sorry?
He was the youngest, yes.
Oh, youngest, okay. So you're the oldest?
I'm the eldest, yeah.
You're the eldest sister, younger brother.
Exactly.
Wow. When did, so you were in Toronto, and so when he was not even born, when the family moved from
No, it was just me and my parents.
Okay.
And then when things changed in South Africa, the entire family showed up. So when I was about 17, 18 years old, 19, like through those years, the whole family arrived. So, we went from 3 people to we're now like 50 people living in Toronto.
Okay,
that we're related to.
That's the story of Toronto, right?
Yeah,
and giant families coming.
With marriages and babies and immigration. I mean, the whole combination. I mean, we have these family parties, and I look around, I go, "This is unbelievable."
They all look like
but
you.
Of course, I didn't grow up. But I didn't grow up with them.
Right.
So
what were you doing? What was the family doing in South Africa?
Well, they were becoming doctors.
Okay.
I mean, they were young, you know, then.
So that was a place to go to medical school?
No, actually, I think my father went in London, went to school in London, but he was from South Africa, and my mother went there. And they met and married and had me and got out.
And decided to leave because of political things happening there.
Right, but they decided to leave, before it went bad. They were like those rare, if you think of Gone with the Wind, it would be like if Scarlett's family says, this is just wrong, let's get out of here.
Yeah, that's good.
As opposed to waiting till Atlanta's on fire.
I went there in 1981 to visit relatives and stuff, and I noticed a completely different world than I was living in here in Canada. For sure, like segregation, like literally blacks and whites, completely different standard of living. Every white family would have a nice house, even with a modest income. They would have a nice house, and then like a black family living there that would service that house. Like it was,
of course,
it was a crazy world. I couldn't, as a young person, I was 11. I couldn't believe what.
No, it's very shocking.
For sure.
In fact, there was an incident when we visited when I was a kid, and the bathroom in the public place said, Europeans, non-Europeans.
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, well, we're not European. We're North Americans.
I need to take a pee in, but so it sounds like you come from this crazy sort of background, which is what makes a great comedian, right? Like,
I think, a sense of strangeness. I mean, if comedy is time or distance from a thing, right? I mean, it explains why, for a long time, all the comedians were Jewish because we live in the society, but we're not quite of the society. It explains why Canadians are so good because we're not quite British or American.
Right.
So we're sort of looking at the world slightly from the outside in a funny way. Like it makes psychological sense if you think about what comedy is.
That's right. Yeah. So, okay. So then you started that in, when did you start comedy? You were in Toronto?
Yeah. I was in grade 11. I was 17.
Wow.
That's why I'm a veteran, and not dead.
17. So you've been doing comedy, 40 years?
40 plus years.
40 plus years. Wow, that's incredible. And last night you were at Swizzle's open mic.
Swizzle's open mic.
Waiting to see if your name got drawn out of a hat.
Well, actually, there was a bit of a thing on the Facebook group because I inquired yesterday. I said I have a night off in Ottawa. In the Ottawa comedy group on Facebook. Anybody got a show? And some young man who I don't know, a new comic, said, there's a lotto spot at Swizzles.
Okay,
and I said, okay, thank you. And then the organizer of it, who has worked with me, said, you don't have to worry about that. You can get a spot.
Yeah. We'll let you slide this time, Simon.
Exactly.
Yeah, next time you pre-book like everybody else on a Monday.
You draw a name. Exactly.
So what was the original draw to comedy? Like people will say, okay, it started with a speech in school and it went really well, or like, what was your first stand up on stage and talking to a microphone?
Wow. I mean, probably school or summer camp or something. To be honest, I was always making jokes.
Okay.
I was always fascinated by it. I mean, I used to write, you remember the show Definition?
No.
It doesn't matter. It was a game show, a Canadian game show, and they were all puns.
Okay.
The answers. It was like riddles, and then the answer was like some silly wordplay.
Yeah.
And I used to write those and submit them, and they'd pay me like $1 each for the ones they used.
Nice.
This was when I was like 13, 14 years old. So, I always had a fascination. I loved Mad Magazine as a kid, which was, Bugs Bunny. Because the funny thing is when you're a kid, the jokes are always terrible. They're nonsense jokes. Like even as a child, I thought, what's funny about this? It was those, what's red and goes putt-putt? An outboard apple. It's just nonsense. It's just things that don't go together. And that to them was funny. And I just thought, this is not funny. Like we're funnier in my house than this, just being silly. And
yes.
I mean, we always were a talky singy family. I mean, we were just like that.
Entertainers?
Yeah, but, like, my dad knows everything. I mean, he's 90 now. He still knows everything. And my mother is incredibly smart, and our dinner table, we didn't sit and eat silently. Like,
right.
It was just very conversational and talking about everything going on in our lives and the world. And
nice. So that was the training ground. That was the breeding ground where you learned to be quick and clever, right? Like, you come from a family of writers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's all about words and word placement and using the right amount. And
yeah, it's a sharp table we sat around.
Nice. That's good.
So, that helps, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure. And we had Michael Gelbart on here last week, and he was a middle child. We've had people that it seems come from big families in the same sort of situation where you got to kind of go out of your way to sort of get your attention, the attention that you want and need, right? So then that develops, right? And that I mean, it's also a coping mechanism for other people, right? If they have something that they're not happy with and they're trying to protect in their world, then they go out and they sort of they say things that are funny to change the subject, to do things. Those are, I mean.
Well, and again, I mean, I was a little guy. Even in Hebrew school, I was the small one.
Right.
I mean, so I was a very small person growing up. I mean, now I'm 5'7", which is Jewish 6 foot.
That's huge. Yeah.
Huge. But I'm saying, so I'm not tall, but at least I'm not I'm not Danny DeVito. Like I'm.
Have you ever met Danny DeVito?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, he's tiny.
He's very small.
I'm making. So, but I mean, I think that's part of it. Is humor is a good defense mechanism against bullies and. Just a world that can take you physically.
Yes, for sure. I always wonder why I'm in comedy, for sure, because like I was the bully, right?
I guess.
Yeah. I was never the bully for real. I was always living in. I was always very scared of others, and because I was never big. I was tall and skinny, and everybody wanted to beat up the tall guy. You know what I mean? So
right. There you go. So
I needed that sort of defense mechanism.
That makes perfect sense then.
Yes, for sure. So then where does it go? Because I know you're one of the original Yuck Yucks guys, and I want to get into that for sure, because that suit, we've had Howard Wagman here, obviously Mike McDonald, those guys, Mark Breslin.
Right. Well, those are all people I knew at the beginning.
So that's, you hit that right at the right time, right? How old were you when Yuck Yucks started in Toronto?
I was 17. Wow. That's why I started comedy then. It was the first place to do it.
That's incredible.
I mean, I saw an article and... Yeah. About a month after it opened, if that, I went down to check it out.
Yeah.
And then the next week I was on there was no amateur night then because there was nobody around, right? I mean, there were almost no comics. Yeah. So open micers or what we were just called amateurs would go on after the show.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday and Wednesday night, they would end the show and they'd say, and if you want to stick around, we got some people who want to try comedy.
Yeah.
And most people would stick around. They were curious and they were already sitting there. And, you'd go up after the pros had done their show and do your 5 minutes to try.
And the pros were Mark Breslin.
Mark was usually the MC back in the early days, yeah. And not always, but often. Martin Waxman, who was the manager of the club, would MC sometimes, and he wasn't really a comedian. He would just
talk,
introduce the acts.
Okay.
Although he did a thing where he'd play 2 recorders. He'd play dueling banjos on 2 recorders.
Wow.
And then in through his nose at the end was the punchline.
Oh, like a recorder, like a flute kind of recorder?
Yeah, as opposed to what?
Tape recorder, yeah.
No.
I thought you meant he was playing 2 banjos.
Oh, that would be
recorder.
funny.
Yeah.
But no, like he'd take one and play, and then he'd put it under his arm and play the other one, and then back and forth, and then both at the same time, and then the nose.
I'd pay to see that.
Well, yeah, sure. It was cute.
Yeah.
And then who did we have? There was like Larry Horowitz and Evan Carter, Steve Brinder.
Wow. That's crazy.
I mean, almost nobody who's still practitioners.
Yeah.
Evan is still out there on the scene.
Yeah, I recognize him for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Evan's fantastic.
And he still looks really young. Right?
Yeah, no, there's a picture in that attic that does not look good.
That's good.
Yeah, but I like that you say that's good.
Yeah, I don't want to laugh too much.
No, you don't have to. It's funny. It's like every comic is always critiquing everything every other comic says. Oh yeah, you could do that. Yeah, I could see that working.
Yeah, well, you get to a point, and I'm sure you're well past this point, especially coming from a family of writers and so analytic about comedy, that you see the joke coming and you like the way it was presented, and you just, instead of laughing because there's no surprise, you just,
exactly.
Yeah.
That one arrow that's not quite straight is making me insane.
Yeah, so this here, these are arrows. I know, I noticed that the other day too. Is it this one?
Yes.
Those are from a bushman in Africa.
Really? You just pulled them out of him?
No. My cousin Crombie Hatfield, who was still living in South Africa in the 80s, and they were fighting, help me out here, you seem to know history, the Boer War. Is that a thing that could have happened in the 1980s? So everyone still had to go conscription.
In the 1980s?
Yes.
No.
What kind of war were the South Africans fighting somewhere?
Maybe they were in Angola.
Okay, we'll go with
possibly
that. The Great Angolan War. And so he was on Christmas leave when I went there in 81, and he'd just come back from fighting people. And I guess, collateral damage was, unfortunately, this bushman and his quiver, which is in this room somewhere, which I'm not sure, his bow and those arrows, which I thought were really cool. And they'd been stuck in the quiver for years. And I pulled them out. If you look right there, there's a whole bunch of knives that were in that quiver as well.
Right.
And I just thought it was a really cool thing.
Poor
for
old
sure.
bushman.
Yep, poor little fella. Speaking of short people, that guy was tiny.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But beautiful arrows. And I always find that fascinating, when you look at sort of pre-industrial cultures, the aesthetic of it. Like, I can look at that and know those are not Native American arrows.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Those are African arrows. Yeah. Even though it's the same, weapon.
It does the same thing, hopefully.
It does the same thing. Yeah. You can tell.
How would you tell that it's not Native American?
Because of the roundness at the top, just the general shape of it is like an African object.
Yeah,
it's like the shield. I have a lot of African stuff at my house too because of my background.
It's cool stuff for sure.
It's just got its own aesthetic.
Yeah. The knives there are the same shape. They're the sort of
exactly
wide in the middle there. Yeah. It's amazing. And can you imagine that people had to catch their food with that? Like, I don't think I could do it with a fancy compound bow right now, right? I'd be out in the woods starving to death.
Oh, yeah.
These people caught their food to feed the whole tribe.
No, I like my food, like on a little styrofoam tray with plastic over it.
You don't like your food that way.
It's so easy to
big
catch.
Fancy man like you.
You just go into the store and there it is.
Yeah.
Cut into easy pieces to cook.
I agree completely, 100%.
I mean, I hardly have to ever even fight it.
Yeah, you're not hunting and gathering.
Not even a little bit. Well, I'm gathering, I guess.
You've gathered a few things.
Yeah, 8 items or less if you want to get out quick.
Yeah.
I gather that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it 12? Because I go to this one that's 16, and 16 is like shopping, and does no advantage to anybody.
Not particularly.
No, 16's enough for sure.
And you still get somebody with 20.
Yeah. Well, then they divide it in two.
Exactly.
That's good.
I'm both of these people.
Yeah. No, someone's coming. My wife's, she's coming or whatever. Yeah, no, she's not.
When I meet the right girl.
Yeah. This is for someone else. Yeah, I'm having company tonight. That's good. So at what point did you decide that comedy was going to be what you did for your whole life?
I don't know. I'm sure I'll decide soon.
You're not figured it out. Yeah.
No, I've never,
Have you had another job?
I have had retail jobs over the years to support myself. Not for a while, but I have. I sold computers, at various different stores when I needed work.
I'd buy a computer from you, for sure.
Oh, I was good at it.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, it's amazing how people like a salesman who tells them the truth.
Right. Yes. Or any kind of story, right? Like, as long as you can come and have confidence and entertain me, I'm pretty much going to buy anything from you.
But I mean, it's funny because, especially computers, people would say, I want a computer that's going to last for a long time. I said, well, then you have to freeze yourself and come back in 200 years when they figure that out. Because right now.
They're designed for, 9 months at a time, for sure.
Well, I mean, it'll do what you want it, what you bought it to do forever. But you're going to want to do something else with it soon, and you won't be satisfied.
People didn't realize that, though. Like, as you say, they would come in and they would expect this to be their computer, like when they bought their refrigerator and they bought their television, right? They used to last 20 years. And I guess that was what it was. Every time I buy a computer, I'm like, 10 years from now, hope this is still working. And like you said, 9 months from now, it's not good enough. You need more this, more that.
Yeah, but it's your desire to do more. It's not the computer doesn't do what you bought it to do. Like I say, I mean, it's like somebody buying a car and going, wait a second, This won't go on water. You know,
Yeah.
no, you need a boat for that.
Yeah,
You know?
amphibious car.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and the real problem is nobody knows what it will do. Although I have noticed that nothing has changed in a few years now.
In the computer world.
Yeah, like it doesn't do anything new that it didn't do.
That's right.
5 years ago.
That's right. They're working on the sex robots. I think they're going heavy on that. All hands on deck for the sex
Understandably.
robot for sure. Yeah, I saw a meme.
You said on deck, right?
All hands on deck.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah. You are too clever for me. You're like one of these people who I can barely speak to because there's too much going on.
Yeah, well,
you get that all the time, don't you?
Well, I lie awake all night with my brain racing because it's like, after this thought, I'll be able to sleep. Yeah. Oh, no, here's another.
You know what's interesting about the way you think is there are football players who are who have the similar. Like I had friends. This one guy, Big Whiskey Jim Reed. Big 6'7", 300-pound guy, and he remind me of him. His brain was so fast, so quick. He's funny as anything, but there's levels to his funniness that I didn't even understand. You know what I mean? Like he would say something to make me laugh, but it would make smarter people laugh too. I went over to his house the first time I met him. This is an NFL football player, and he had a lazy boy in the middle of his room, no television, and a stack of books this big. And he would just sit there at night, you know, when everyone else is doing whatever else they're doing in the NFL world, and he would read books.
Yeah. Well, I always have a book on the go.
Yeah. What are you reading now?
It's called The Lost. It's really good, actually.
By?
It's Daniel Mendelsohn. Huh. It's brilliant, actually, because it's sort of like a detective story. I mean, it's a true story.
Yeah.
It's him finding what happened to like 6 family members who vanished in the Holocaust. Right?
Oh, wow.
So nobody knows what happened because, you know, anybody who lived was hiding at the time. Right. But piecing it together and traveling the world and finding documents and, you know, old people who lived in that village who might have some clue of.
Wow.
And it's really amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really an interesting
hobby of some sort, though. Could you imagine spending every waking hour trying to figure out something like that? Like that's needle in a haystack.
Exactly, totally. But it's fascinating what he does find out talking to these people, and people try to hide things too because they have stories and that they're ashamed of. You know, a lot of people who survived that are ashamed that they survived when others didn't.
Really,
you know, it's
guilt,
that survivor's guilt and. I mean, there's just endless layers to it that I find interesting. So that's what I'm reading.
Yeah. How long does it take you to read a book?
Depends. I mean, depends what else is going on and, you know, and how big the book is, obviously. And, you know, I mean, I read fast, but I don't always have time to read.
Yeah.
And
it takes me like months from time. I mean, like you say, but if it's one of those books you can't put down, like, it can take a few days. But like I'm reading one of mine, Sapiens, you know that one? But A Brief History of Human Beings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And it's complicated. Like you have to read every page twice, kind of thing. And it's taken me an awful long time to get through chapter 1.
See, I think sometimes that good writing means that you can, you know, take in something complex in an interesting way.
Yes,
I mean,
completely agree.
You know, some people, I find they write, you know, too cleverly. Mm-hmm. They're trying to show how smart they are instead of trying to build a bridge.
That's right. It's
know?
like comedy too. Like it could be a great joke that on paper, you know, if I pause and let you think about this for 5 seconds, this is going to be really funny to you. But if you don't laugh, then it's not funny, right? Like it has to be, like you said, go back to the kids in the knock jokes, right? If you're laughing, then it's funny. It's comedy.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why I brought up Mad Magazine, because that was almost... I mean, I loved Bugs Bunny probably first, like Mike did, actually.
Yes.
He gave me a coin with Bugs Bunny on it, you know, sort of a membership into his, you know, Friends Who Are Really Funny Club kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But Mad Magazine, I remember reading and going, wow, these guys are really funny.
Yes.
You know, like back when I was, you know, 10 kind of.
And you could fold up the back page. Do you remember?
That's right, of course. Al Jaffe, the fold-ins.
Wow.
Yeah, of course.
What's the Al Jaffe? That's the person who did it?
Yes.
Wow. You are deep. That's good.
Yeah, but I remember.
I think you could have done much better than comedy, Simon.
He also did
you could have been
snappy answers to stupid questions. Remember those? That was Al Jaffe, too.
Yeah, vaguely, for sure.
You know, somebody would ask, like, somebody's got golf clubs, and the neighbor goes, going golfing? And then there were 3, you know, snappy answers. No, skiing, but I like to challenge myself.
That's a good one. I like that one.
You know, that,
yeah.
that kind of
like
thing.
I said, I think you could have done way better than comedy.
Believe me, my parents are constantly reminding me that I wasted my life. But you know what? Here's what I like about it. Here's why there's almost nothing that will do what comedy does.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know why I'm obsessed with the truth. Mm-hmm. You know, like the real truth of things. But comedy is one of the only true things, because, you know, nobody will laugh unless it's funny. Mm-hmm. Your best friends will come see a show. If it's not a good show, they're in more pain than anybody else in the audience. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no lie in comedy. Mm-hmm. There's almost nothing else that has no lie in it. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, people will sit through a song, and whether they like it or not, they'll probably just clap at the end, and the musician can pretend like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, for sure, 100%. I know every time I stand on stage that it's every time is new. Like, right, you're only as good as your last time at bat, right?
Well, I say it's probably. I mean, I don't play golf, but I would imagine it's like golf, where you know, it doesn't matter how much you've perfected your approach. Every course will challenge you in some way.
Yes.
You know, every audience is a new day, and it doesn't matter what you've achieved up till now. You know, here we go. Mm-hmm. You know, or Evel Knievel. I also liken it to that. You know, it's you clear the trucks, or you break every bone in your body.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah,
for sure. Do you do a lot of crowd work?
I can. Mm-hmm. When I MC, I do crowd work.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends if they need it or not, you know? I mean, I'm very much, you know, my antenna are up. I'm doing what the crowd needs.
I that's what I'm seeing for sure, that you have the ability to do whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah,
Take it in any direction.
Exactly.
Let's go back to 17 years old. You've got on stage, and the first time it went well?
Yes, the first time it went great. Mm-hmm. And I was nervous. Like, you know, I see a lot of these new comics, they bring down like 25 people to see them the first time they ever do it. Yeah. I'm always like, wow, that is confidence, you know?
Yeah. But nobody knows I even do comedy. I haven't told anyone yet.
But, oh, really? That's funny.
Thank you.
I mean, as long as you don't mean the people who've actually seen it don't know.
Yeah, when's that guy going to
Especially
stop?
the audience doesn't know I do comedy.
Yeah, I'm keeping it under wraps. I don't have the confidence for that.
But yeah, no, I told nobody. I went alone, and it went great. You know, I mean, just that, you know, lucky they were sort of like, wow, look at this nervous kid, you know, but then it went terribly for the next 10 times trying to recreate that, you know. So it's funny. Like, if I had done as badly my first time as I did my second through 10th or 12th time, I probably would never have pursued it.
Interesting. That's what Michael Gelbart said last week. He said, I submit to you. Do you know Michael Gelbart?
Yeah, of course.
Because I submit to you. He submitted a lot of things to me.
Yeah.
I submit to you that there's a lot of genius comics out there who bombed their first time and never got back up again. So
Lucky them,
for sure. Yeah, they became Supreme Court judges.
I was going to say, you know, because, I mean, here's the thing about comedy and why there's so few of us, you know, original OG, as my nephew calls us, original gangsters.
Yeah, you are a gangster,
left,
for sure.
Is most people can't do it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 99% of the people never try. Mm-hmm. Okay. Of the people who think maybe I can do this, 99% can't. Mm-hmm. So they try and realize, oh, this is way harder than it looks.
Do you think that's true? 99% of the people who first try can't do it?
Absolutely.
Wow, because I would assume that you head into it thinking that, I mean...
Oh, no, they think they can.
They think they can.
But that's because... And I can... this is going to be like a multi, you know, subheadings
Yeah, I'm going
thing.
to try my best to follow along.
Okay. Part of the reason people think they can is because, unlike every other form of entertainment or expression, comedy, stand-up comedy, where you're talking to the audience, right? Part of it is putting them at ease, right? So that they don't suspect the joke is coming, right? Okay. It's like a magic trick where you know, you have to be sort of going this way in a relaxed fashion so that I can flip you with the joke, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so part of the skill is, hey, we're just having a chat here. Mm-hmm. There's no show going on. I'm just talking to you, and whoa, I got you.
Yeah.
Right?
You got me right there when you did that.
Okay. So people watching think, oh, they're just talking. There's nothing to this. Mm-hmm. That's why people think they can do it. because they're fooled by the illusion that it's not a show.
Okay, that's good. Yep.
Right. So that's why most people who try it quickly discover, oh, maybe it's not just talking, because these people are staring at me and not digging me at all.
Yeah.
And they quit. Most of the people who can do it, who try and can do it, quickly realize there's no money in this.
Yes.
I'm smart. I could be, like my joke I always say is, I'm smart enough to be a lawyer, and I'm smart enough not to be a lawyer.
That's a good one.
Right? But my parents would disagree. They would say, why were you not a lawyer?
Yeah.
You know, you could clearly be a good lawyer. Yes, I could be a good lawyer. But, you know, you talk about seeking the truth. I mean, my God.
Let's talk about seeking the truth. I think this is a prime example of someone who chooses exactly what he wants to do and pursues it for a lifetime. It's an amazing story. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you know, yeah, I've never made money. I mean, you know, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you subscribe to a Western ideal of success, you know, which is, you know, a guy on a yacht with young supermodels and oysters. Yeah, that's not my life. And it never would be.
Yeah, keep trying. No.
Well, not in the Me Too age.
Not in the Me Too
Now
age.
it's just all you can eat shrimp.
There'd
No
be
women
no
to be
oysters.
seen.
No, I love
This
that.
is a great life.
That's what comedy is, right? That's the ability to do it, the ability to do anything, and to choose to do that is.
Well, the only non-renewable resource is time. That's the only thing you won't get more of.
Yes.
So to me, you know, spending your life doing something you don't like, people say to me, comedy, that's hard. I say, no, hard is getting up at 8 to get to a job you hate for 9.
Yes.
That's what I couldn't do. You know.
Do you have kids?
I have a daughter.
You married?
No.
No. But the daughter.
You notice the disdain with which I said that?
No.
I have been twice, actually.
You've been married officially. I
Yeah,
do twice. Wow.
And
not as smart as I thought.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, I married two very well-to-do women. So in the end, you know, it cost me nothing.
Yes.
You know, like I didn't lose anything.
That
That I had anything.
yeah.
You know, that's the good thing about being a comic and getting divorced. You know, what's you going to take? Half my X-Men comics?
Half your joke book, yeah. Which half do you want? The setup or the punchlines?
Yeah, this chunk of hash, I guess you can have some of it.
That's good. Okay. Okay, so when did you make the transition from the guy going up at the end of the shows to the guy who's people are paying to see?
Well, the truth is nobody ever paid to see me. And
Not
still
yet.
don't.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. And I actually had that conversation with Mark Breslin many years ago when I argued about getting paid properly.
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, nobody comes to see you." And I
Why
said,
not?
And I said, "Of course not. But they come back because they saw me."
Yes.
That's what you don't get.
Don't play for the standing ovation. Play for the return invitation.
Yeah.
It's a poem.
And again, you don't know the name of the chef in the kitchen at the restaurant. You just know you had a good meal.
Yeah. Why don't people come to see you?
Because it's Canada. Nobody knows anybody. That's my opening bits are all about that. I say it's the opposite of Cheers. It's where nobody knows your name.
That's good. But I'm going to stop saying that. So, but there are people, for example, last weekend I hosted for Derek Seguin, and people came because Derek Seguin was there.
Oh, yeah. Well, Derek Seguin is a real entertainer, too.
Yeah.
And he's also got that French thing. So, you know, they have a culture, right? The French-Canadian culture, as you know, has their own celebrity thing. But, you know, English culture, I mean, who's a famous Canadian comic who's in Canada?
In Canada, yeah.
Ron James.
Ron James, yeah, that's a good one.
And, again, only because he's on television.
Don Kelly.
Right.
Just said that because I imagine Don Kelly's watching.
And he's not a stand-up either.
Don Kelly?
Oh, no, Don Kelly. I was thinking, sorry, of course, Don, yeah.
Yeah, Don Kelly.
I debated him once.
Yes, CBC's Debaters. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of the guy from Air Farce, Don, and I can't remember his name suddenly, and I'm embarrassed that I can't, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sure.
But
Scott Thompson?
right, but again, television.
Television.
I mean,
yep.
Scott became a stand-up after being a sketch guy.
So, in your opinion, is there no way to become that Canadian, not on television, that people come to see? How do you become that nowadays?
I have no idea.
You're the smartest comic I've met.
No.
Let's figure this out.
No. I am the most intelligent comic you met.
Okay.
I'm not even close to the smartest.
Okay. What's the difference?
The difference is I don't think strategically. I don't know anything about career or business. When young comics say to me, how do I, and their next question is not about jokes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
okay,
you're asking the wrong guy.
Okay.
And in fact, if a comic starts by saying, how do I make money at this? I go, quit.
Yeah.
Because you won't be here long enough to make a cent if your first question is about money and not comedy. You know, like the only reason to do it, in my opinion, is because it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, it's a good one
but,
for sure.
You know, if you're looking at it as a career, ask somebody who knows about business. And that is truly not me.
Interesting. Or somebody who's making money doing it, making a lot of money doing it, right? And there are those people.
I get by, and I'm delighted that I am able to do it and make enough to survive.
Yeah, which is a great accomplishment.
And everybody always asks me about, but don't you want this? I mean, people always ask me because, you know, I do well. I mean, I'm on shows quite often where I'm the only one getting laughs in a tough room or some theater show where, you know, I'm destroying and people go, how come this guy isn't huge? And I'm like, because that's not what I do. Because I'm not going to spend my day doing whatever that is.
It is a lot
when
of time.
I could be thinking about my bits and my next joke and my thing that I think is funny.
Yeah, you have to prioritize, right? There are fine lines between what you spend your time doing, and if you're spending your time on the craft, then that's That's great too, right?
I mean, in America, there'd be people who would see some opportunity to make money, and they would take care of that part.
Yes.
And I would write the jokes and be doing the shows, and they would be calling me and going, "Hey, you're on this show,"
right?
And I would go and do the show. But in Canada, that doesn't really exist,
right?
And because there's no money again, and part of it is also just there's 3 people within 10,000 miles.
That's
you know,
right.
I mean, you got to travel at great expense to entertain people, so it costs too much.
That is a big part of it for sure. Yeah, the amount of people, right?
I mean, my hope is always that they'll take down the stupid border rules. I mean, American comics can, you know, this Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comedians, right? That's just started.
Okay.
Part of the goal was, you know, to make it a little more equitable about the border because, you know, they can come up here, no problem to work.
That right?
And we have to go through this expensive, time-consuming visa process that's so, you know, takes so much money and time that once people get that visa, they just move. They're not going to stay here.
That's right. Do you have is it a green card that you need to perform down there?
Or there's different designations. You can work without becoming a citizen or without.
So you don't have it?
No, I don't.
You just perform exclusively in Canada?
Pretty much.
Wow, that's even more impressive.
Well, that's what I mean. It's hard.
Yeah.
Where I mean, when you think about how many American gigs are available, you know, so much closer than Canada.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, it's hard to get that paperwork done. And again, I'd love to open it, but at the same time, you know, I'm not crazy about America right now. I have no particular desire to go there at the moment.
Where do you do most of your gigs?
Yeah, well, I have to travel for work for money more, but I mean, I'm on all the time. I mean, I do sets every week, all the time. You know, I go down and practice because you got to sharpen your sword between battles.
Right. So you do a lot of clubs. Like, I mean, you were at basically a club last night, and you do obviously a lot of theaters, right? So what's the difference between when you go from a theater to a club?
Well, you can slow it down in a theater. You know, they're bolted into the seat facing the stage. Yeah. There's no service. There's a light on you and nothing else to look at.
Yes.
And, you know, and they're all facing the same direction. I mean, it's much easier, ironically. The
theater's easier.
The high-end gig is easier than the club gig.
Because of less distractions.
No distractions.
Right.
Nobody's serving drinks. Nobody's, you know, they're just... all there is to do is watch whatever's going on on the stage. You know, it's so you can really slow it down and milk the joke for all it's worth. I mean, if you go to a play, an alleged comedy play, it's amazing how lame the jokes are that get huge laughs out of a theater audience. That, like in a comedy club, the crowd would go, you know what I mean? Like literally, you'd be wasting their time in a comedy club with the jokes that get huge roars in a theater. So when you're doing comedy club quality jokes, and I'm not talking about the cheap stuff that some people do in comedy clubs. I'm talking about the good comics. You can destroy in a theater. Yeah. I mean,
I'm really hoping you go to the bathroom during my set tonight. I don't want to hear the review of it.
Oh, don't worry about it. I don't give reviews.
I'm just joking. For sure.
I don't give advice to comics. I will the only thing unless they ask. I mean, sometimes a young comic will say, so, will you watch my set and tell me what you think? And I'll say, if you want to hear what I think, I'll tell you. But
is there anyone else out there
doing it? But I'll give you tags. Like, I'll watch a set and say, here, you could say this, you could say that. I mean, I'm thinking of jokes, right? That's actually useful to them.
Yes.
Everybody's got an opinion. Very few people can write a joke.
I imagine when you watch comedy, you're full of, like, you see the tags already, right? That's your brain works that way. Of
course.
Yeah, that's great. So I'll expect a few tonight, a few tags.
Done.
Just yell them out, too.
Yeah.
While I'm on stage.
From the audience, get big laughs. Yeah. Okay.
That's good.
I can't wait for my turn. I'm going to get laughs during his set.
That is good. Yeah. But that's funny because when you I always think I could, when you're hosting or whatever, and then someone does their set and then you're thinking, you think of your tag and then you think, I should go up there and say that, and then you're like, that's stealing their punch. You know what I mean? Like, you don't.
No, but you can do that as the host. I do that as the host. I'll make the joke and then I'll give it to them.
That's a good way of doing it.
I mean,
for sure.
I'm not going to do it in my act because I need their setup, and that is stealing. But I certainly can do it after them and then give it to them.
Mm-hmm. That's
fair. Fair.
Yeah, that is fair. So then you started. How old were you when you started headlining?
Oh, I don't even remember. Oh, but sorry, we sort of got off topic, which is natural. But
yes.
But yes, the first time I got off the amateur night, we were talking about that.
Yep.
In fact, what happened was after about 6 months or something of going, getting on every Tuesday or Wednesday, basically, once a week, my mother said, you know what? You can't be at a nightclub on school nights.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah, you got to go on the weekend then.
And I said to Mark, my mother says I can't come anymore on the week during the school nights. And so he said, okay, fine, I'll give you a spot on a Saturday every couple of weeks or so.
Nice. That's clever. Good thinking by Mom.
Well, it wasn't even thinking. Again, I wasn't thinking strategically. I was just telling him this is the deal. I'm in high school. I got to... In fact, the first summer, I started in April of 78. And after a few months, I went to camp for a few weeks. I mean, that's how young I was. I went to summer camp.
Yeah. Which one?
Camp Gesher.
Oh, never heard of that one.
Well, it's a Jewish camp. You probably wouldn't have gone.
I know Jewish people. You're not the only one.
Yeah, but you're not spending the summer at a Jewish camp with them.
No, it's true.
I
do go to
I'm not saying you don't know Jewish people. Yeah. I'm just saying, but that doesn't mean you go to synagogue.
Yeah, I've been to bar mitzvahs.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, that's about the only time I go to synagogue too. Wedding, bar mitzvah, funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so then you've started doing the weekends, and how does that change your performance?
It doesn't.
It doesn't?
No, not mine. I mean, again, we're talking about a different time, right? Like we were discussing this before we came on the air, that now there's a scene. There's a comedy scene. So you'll go out to a comedy night and everybody in the audience is on the show.
Yes.
I call it karaoke night, It's
karaoke?
Well, that's not how you pronounce it, but yes.
Okay. Karaoke?
Karaoke. It's Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The reason people say karaoke is because there was an old song, the Karaoke, and people got confused. It's like when Sade first broke in America. She was originally a star in England, and people called her Sade because they heard the name from England. Yes, this artist called Sade, and they assumed it was the British pronunciation of Sade. So they'd call her Sade. Until they saw the spelling and went, oh, it's Sade. We just thought it was that. So there's a lot of that in the world. Everybody does say karaoke, but they're wrong.
It's karaoke?
And I'm happy to say karaoke.
I think it's beautiful.
Well, it's from Japan. It's
karaoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like people who say espresso. No, it's espresso.
Espresso, yeah.
Just because there's a word express doesn't mean. It's like bruschetta. It's not bruschetta. It's bruschetta.
Bruschetta.
It's Italian.
Yes. You're a very worldly man.
Well, we live in a world.
Yeah.
And I live in Toronto, which is the world.
Which is the world.
If you can't afford to travel, go to Toronto. Everybody's there.
Yes.
I'm just saying it's funny how it's like when you hear people say, what did they say about croissant in those American commercials? What do they call it? I can't. But they say croissant, but they don't say croissant. They say like
Okay.
Croissant or,
Yes.
you know.
like a foyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
you know, to me, it's like these aren't sounds you don't have in English.
Right.
You know.
Pronouncing
it's not like it's not like people who can't do the ch. I get it. You can't do ch. You don't have ch. Mm-hmm. But croissant does not have a sound that we don't have. Mm-hmm. Why not just pronounce it the way the people who made up the word say it?
If you can. If you know.
If you know.
I'd never heard of the karaoke before.
Right.
I think I just changed it again. Karaoke.
Karaoke.
I'm getting better at it. Is what's happening. Yeah.
Karaoke.
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 So the open mics are like karaokes.
Right. You know, now, because there's so many comics. Mm-hmm. In the old days, there weren't.
Right.
You know, the comics who were, I mean, if there were comics who weren't on the show, there was maybe 2 or 3 hanging out. Mm-hmm. The audience was an audience.
Right.
You know, so you'd work for an audience, which to me makes sense.
Yes.
Like, there's no point for me, in, you know, doing it for the comedians who show up. Because they're never going to pay to see you.
No.
They're never going to pay to see a show.
No.
I mean,
there is some value of getting up on stage and talking into a microphone, regardless of who's listening or laughing, right?
Oh, no. My point isn't that you shouldn't go on in front of comedians. Mm-hmm. My point is you shouldn't gear your act to them.
Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Yeah. You know, I don't care if they're into it or not, because they're not the audience. Ultimately.
Yeah. That's a tough situation though for people, right? Just starting nowadays, they don't have the same opportunities to get up in front of like a crowd that's there to see comedy.
No, because there's a billion of them now.
Yeah, there's tons.
So, you know.
Yeah. There's hundreds. There's literally hundreds in Ottawa, like open micer.
It's the old crabs in a bucket scenario, too, where they're all like trying to climb out and pulling each other down at the same time.
Exactly.
But
exactly. That's interesting you say that, right? My belief is that when you support the people around you and you know, encourage them, then you're also doing yourself a favor.
Yes and no, but there's also the aspect that they're all encouraging each other in a sort of clubhouse way, but not to move out of the clubhouse.
Right.
I mean,
you have to be very careful. Like you say, is who's to you're trying to appease, right? Is you have to realize that you're making those people happy when, like you see it on social media, these people are having shows and it's almost like they're advertising to the other comedians instead of the people who are not comedians.
Right. But if that's the only people who ever come to see it, then that's who your audience is, I suppose. But you're never going to make a real career, first of all, out of it. And you're also not going to build bridges to people who don't think and feel exactly the same way you do. You know, I'm like a big city Jew performing across this country. I mean, I do a joke about, you know, towns so small that I get there and I'm like, gee, I wonder where I'm gigging tonight. Oh, probably the building, right? And I'm able to do a show that kills in front of these people with whom I really have nothing in common.
Because,
you know,
because that's the way you've given
because I build a bridge. Right. I'm able to express my feelings about things in a way that even people who don't think that way can at least appreciate my point of view and enjoy the laugh that comes from it, right? As opposed to just, you know, preaching to the choir, you know? Like,
when you say you build the bridge to people it could be any walk of life, how do you do that? Is there an answer to that? Like
Well, that's what comedy is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point about comedy, is it's a way of... I have a scientific theory of what comedy is.
Okay.
I think that what a laugh is the connection of two synapses that haven't previously connected.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's stuff that's already in your brain, but I liken it to, do you ever see The Last Spike?
No.
It's the story of the railroad in Canada, right?
Yeah.
So they built it from the east and the west, and they met in the middle, and then the golden spike was pounded when the line was finally, you know, this.
Yeah.
So that's what a joke is to me. It's like, hey, here's a thought you've had, and here's another thought you've had, and here they suddenly, ding, they come together, and you go, oh my God, that connection, and laugh, the surprise. And the whole trick is getting there just before they do.
Nice.
You know, so that they don't see the place where it meets until you say, and it's here, ding. And that's the trick of it, right? So that's why it's building a bridge. That's how comedy works, because I'm taking two things they've thought of but never thought of together, or a way of seeing it that they've never seen it before, and even if it's something that they don't agree with.
Yes.
You know, even if their perspective is maybe way more conservative than mine or less tolerant than mine, I can still make them go, okay, I see why you think this.
Yeah. And then they think it's funny. It's Do you have a message in your comedy? Or do you try to put one in, or you just...
I mean, I don't know.
Because, I mean, everything has a message, right? When you tell a story, there's always some sort of unintended message as well, right?
Yeah.
People say, I don't write with a message, but there's always an implied message for sure.
Of course. Yeah. You know, you can't avoid a perspective. I mean, that's kind of the point. In fact, people say, do you do observational? And I say, no, I do opinion comedy. It's more like, here's what I think about this thing.
So it is a message for sure. It's your message.
I would say the message is that we're all funny and none of us as cool as we think we are. You know, we're all stupid in our own way, and we're all smart in our own way, and we're all just one person.
Yes.
You know, everybody figures, and myself included. I mean, we all think we understand and we know, but you know, we only each know what we know.
Yes. Well, that's a huge message. What you just do, right? That's the message of the whole thing, right?
Exactly.
The whole world.
I would say that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah. So it's not something that you go out and say. It's something that's, like we said, implied throughout 45 minutes of Simon telling stories.
We're all a stranger somewhere, and we're all you know, the in crowd somewhere.
Right. Yes. You got to get in where you fit in. That's a football one for sure. There's always a place for you, right? If you've been working hard and you're a decent athlete and you
I see what you're saying.
And you love the game and you get cut from one team, it doesn't mean you don't belong on a team, right? You just got to find that spot.
But I'd also say, and there's room for, you know, there's room for the stranger in your life, and there's room for you in the stranger's world too.
Yep.
You know, and it's more about being open to things and, you know, trying to understand things instead of closing yourself to things.
Yes, that's a great one. How do you write your jokes? What's your creative process like?
I don't.
You don't write them?
No, it comes.
This is always incredible to me that people say that. They come. And so do you not actually physically write them down on a piece of paper?
Never.
What? And
sometimes I just do this, you know, into my phone. I'll dictate an idea when I think of it.
Yeah.
But no, I don't sit there writing.
It's unbelievable to me. I have to write things down or it's gone.
Well, everybody's different.
I know, but I have these conversations.
Oh no, I mean I lose a lot of material all the time too. But you know, it's not a well, it's a muscle. Like you know, the more I write, the more I write. It's not.
So if you've gone on stage and you've said something new, when you get off stage, how do you make sure you remember that?
I don't.
Do you just have confidence in yourself that next time you get up on stage, you're going to remember that?
Well, next time it's in my head or that situation comes up or whatever, it'll come back. You know, if I need it, it'll be there. But I'm always forgetting bits and then remembering them again and going, oh, yeah, right, I should do that again. And
it couldn't have been that way at the start. Was it that way from the beginning?
No. At the beginning, you're just trying to be comfortable in the bright light and the, you know, and people staring at you while you talk. I mean, that's the basics. I mean, to me, that's like saying, you know, so could you always throw a perfect spiral? You know, I mean, no, you know, the first thing you do is you pick up a football and you feel how big it is in your hand and where did the laces go? And I mean, there's basics that you've got to pick up about any skill at the start.
Right.
Took me 12 minutes to figure out how to use the pod coffee maker at the Airbnb this morning. But now I could make coffee in a second.
You figured it out?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because I was trying to, like I said earlier, trying to make one, and I just stopped because I pressed it and it made the sound, and I'm like, here it comes. Not going to come. And I did put water in it. And
oh, no, I understand. It's the sequence of events I had to figure out.
Yes.
I found all the buttons and the switches and the pods and the water. It won't do it until you put the cup and then close the thing.
Right.
You know, I closed the thing and put the cup and pushed the button and nothing. And then I opened the thing and closed it again. And then it went, oh, okay, now I'll make you coffee.
And now you look back at not being able to do it and think that's silly, right? Because you've already connected all those train links together.
Precisely. But I'm saying everything works that way. Any new skill is a new skill. But I mean, after this much time, those basic skills are not... You know, that
I still find it amazing because especially someone who I'm sure puts every word in the right, you know, order in order to get a joke pop the way it should, and you just don't write it down. Your brain works so well that you can just do that on demand.
Well, no, my brain works so well at making a joke work the right way.
Okay.
I mean, that's not the same as where are my keys?
Right.
Or what's the name of that young bearded comic who I've worked with 30 times and still don't remember which one he is.
Interesting.
Because they all look the same.
Right. So you're really good at the process, and you get back up on stage and you go through that process again. Obviously, don't have to do it extensively every single time, but
also I like to do new things. So I mean, tonight I'll be doing my act because it's a paying theater crowd, and I know what I'm going to do, and I've got my jokes that I know work perfectly and will work. But when I go to these open mics, I mean, there's a couple I like in Toronto. One is gladiatorial. It's called The Danger Room.
Okay.
And the audience is encouraged to attack you.
Oh, nice.
And the host even has a microphone in the back of the room, and they yell all kinds of horrible stuff and anti-Semitic shit at me and everything. And
really?
And I'm just like, like, and to me, it's.
I would love to see you there.
You know, it's fun to, take them on and win, right?
How often is that?
It's weekly.
Wow.
And then there's another one called the B-Side Lounge Comedy Jam. And there's a combo, like keyboard and drums and bass and guitar behind you.
Yeah.
And they play a little, jazzy riffs.
No.
And I just ad-lib whatever comes to my mind. I don't do my act.
Yeah.
A lot of guys do their act.
Yeah,
but I like to surf the music. I actually use the music as the rhythm and thing and just do something.
That's a great idea.
Whatever comes to me.
Yeah. That's a weekly thing too?
Yeah. And
what place is that at?
The B-Side Lounge on College Street.
Wow.
And so to me that's the gym and working out and having fun, and I come up with all kinds of stuff that I could do again, and sometimes I use it, but more often than not it's just that night and good. I got that out of my system, and next week I'll go and talk about something else that's on my mind.
That's amazing. Are there other comedians like you?
Yeah, sure.
Who's the most like you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's guy. I mean, Darren Frost is always working on new stuff. Kenny Robinson always riffing. Boyd Banks is like, the unbookable genius.
Why is he unbookable?
Because he'll always bite the hand that fed him. He'll always make the joke that's most likely to upset whoever brought him in.
Right.
But he's the best.
Yeah,
at the same time, he's a true comedian in that sense.
Is he in Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn Foster, but Glenn Foster isn't so much. I mean, he doesn't go up and riff, but he's always writing new bits. Right. I mean, he's a guy who writes.
Yes, he's been on this podcast.
Yeah. But I'm saying he's always working on his stuff. I mean, it's very easy to fall into the stuff that works. Once you've got your hour, there's no problem just going up there and just reciting your hour. But at the same time, for me, that's not living.
That's right. That's not why you're in the game, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And everything makes me think of something. I mean, everything that happens makes me think of some approach to it that will explain why it bothers me or why I like it in a way that makes them laugh, you hope.
Yeah. For sure.
Not that this has been particularly funny. It's a little analytical, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's the point. That's right.
I mean, I can be serious. I
have
very actual
serious.
Deep thoughts,
but
that's not what I specialize in, obviously.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see your act, for sure. But
my act's hilarious.
Yeah. I have seen you. I saw you at Mike's Memorial.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just
right, but it was funny, right? It was great.
Yeah, sure.
It was.
Well, again, when the audience is watching, you gotta put out.
Give them what they paid for, right? Yeah, you gotta put out.
Well, I'm saying I remember watching that Saturday Night Live anniversary show, and Eddie Murphy came out and did nothing, and I thought to myself, "What are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're Eddie Murphy, and people love you, and you're a huge star, but still, you don't show up at a party without a gift.
That's right. He had some sort of an anxiety attack or something, didn't he?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was that was the last time he went on stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe there was something going on. Exactly, but it's just odd to me to see a comedian go on stage and just, not say anything of note or funny.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. I remember that. Well, how often do you come to Ottawa to perform?
A couple of times a year.
But you do theaters, right?
No. I go to Absolute Comedy.
Oh, okay.
No. When I do theaters, it's as part of a bigger show. I can't fill a theater. my name is not
just because of
anything.
your name. It's because of your name, right? We need to figure out how to do that. Don't
Right.
you think? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's very important to me.
You need someone, right? Like Russell Peters, his brother was the one who put him online. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need someone to help you out and do that if you care, but you clearly don't care about
I
that.
don't really care.
Yeah.
Part of it is also I went and saw Russell at the Air Canada Centre.
Yeah.
He invited me.
Okay.
I didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Yeah.
And I've known him, of course, from the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he used
Right.
me on a radio show he had. He gave me a little acting job, which was nice of him.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, he spends like 2-3 hours after the show shaking hands, taking pictures, signing autographs. I can't do that.
That's curse. That's the curse of being Russell Peters for sure.
Well,
or
that's
a
what I
famous
mean.
person. Yeah.
No, I think he likes it. I don't get the sense that he sees it as a burden in any way. To be honest, I think that's part of his thing, that he likes the fans coming up and interacting and building his fan base like that. But me, honestly,
Couldn't care less.
Well, yeah, and I'm not that nice, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, people come up to me after a show and want to tell me a joke. To me, I feel like I'm being punished. Like the odds that a joke I haven't heard are a billion to one, and the odds that it's a good joke are even narrower.
Do you write jokes for other people?
I have, all the. I mean, I give jokes away all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If I see somebody's act and I think of something, I'm always,
But you've never been hired specifically to like.
When I was young, I used to do that.
Yeah.
But there's no money in it. I mean, no comics I know have the money that it's worth my time to.
Right.
Like if a big time comic wanted to hire me for real money, of course I'd do it. But again, I used to do a lot of punch up work on TV shows and radio shows too, where they'd bring me in for a day for a few $100.
Yeah.
I'd just go through the script and add laughs, and that was okay. But it's also working on a lot of shows I wouldn't watch, which is never.
Right. You're just happy being Simon Rakoff, being invited places all. Did I pronounce it incorrectly? He gave me a strange look. Rakoff?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm afraid so.
I'm afraid so. There's a lot of jokes there, too. I imagine you heard them 40 years ago, right?
That's the joke I do. I say, yes, Rakoff is my name. All those jokes you're thinking of, I've heard them.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's
What's that other comedian, the Russian Smirnoff?
Yakov Smirnoff?
Yeah.
In the States?
Yeah. Is he still around?
Apparently he is I think he's got a theater in Branson, where the old country stars and things go.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do his old act anymore.
That would have been the same time as you were starting, though, right? Like
sure.
Ago? Yeah.
A million years ago.
Look,
I worked with, many huge stars before they were stars.
Yeah.
I worked with Howie Mandel and Jim Carrey and Russell Peters and Jerry Seinfeld and Jay Leno and Stephen Wright and Sam Kinison and
wow. That's awesome.
Louis C.K. and, all these people, Ray Romano, all before television made them who they are.
Mm-hmm. And was that something that you were trying at the time because they used to get on television, right? That was the thing.
Again, I would love to be on U.S. TV once in my life. That is actually my only dream.
Okay.
Because I think it would be nice to be seen by a million times the people who've seen me in my entire 40 years. Mm-hmm. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But, I tried at Colbert, for instance, and they liked what I submitted, but then they told me, but, we're looking at diversity. That's what they want, diversity. Mm-hmm. Which...
A Jewish, South African, white, short, handsome...
Yeah, exactly.
They're a dime a dozen.
I'm too good looking.
That's the problem.
It is
the curse.
an
Your
issue.
Curse is your
they
looks.
can't believe a guy who looks like this can be funny.
Leading man, good looks. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great, man. Well, tonight's the night. It's been an hour and 10 minutes. Wow, that was fantastic. I really appreciate you doing this, and I can't wait for
Very
tonight.
Easy.
Yeah, Mike McDonald at the Mayfair.
And do you validate parking?
I'll definitely validate parking. I'll help you back out of the driveway. If you help me shovel a couple or rake a couple of leaves.
Done.
All right. Thank you very much, man.
That was
great.
fun.
That was fun. Thank you. Wow. I'm going to stop this.